Welcome to NFR's album tier list for 2021, and we did this for album covers and we got great reception on it. It was a load of fun to record, so we thought it would only be fitting to do our albums this time. And listen, it's the end of the year, there's a lot of great projects that have come out, there's a lot of bad ones that have come out, but it's only fitting to take 25 albums and to put it on an actual tier list. So guys, we're going to be doing a lot of end of the year content just like this in the next couple of weeks. You know, we're almost into 2022, so we're going to be doing top 10 lists. We're going to be doing more tier lists, and we're going to be doing our own award show on December 29th. Guys, mark it in your calendar. It's going to be a massive night. You guys are going to be able to come into a live stream with us and get our full categories of the year. So best song of the year, best album, best new album, you know, best banger, whatever it is. Lou and I created a bunch of different categories. It's going to be super fun. Subscribe if you have not already, and we hope to see you there. But Lou, getting into this video now, man, how do you feel about the year? And you know, it was such a blast doing the last video for these tier lists because you just go through the motion, like, yeah, okay, I'll put this here, I'll put this here. But we actually did a review to a lot of these. So, you know, have your opinions changed, or, you know, how have you been feeling over the year so far?
Yeah, for some albums, the ratings have changed. And the way that we're actually doing this tier list is different from your standard tier list. We actually go on a basis of perfect, amazing, great, good, mid, bad, which is the same way that we review albums if you're familiar with the channel. And also, if you guys want bonus videos on the weekly and exclusive content, check our Patreon plans that are available in the description below. It's a lot of fun for the content that we do there. And also, you get Discord access, which is a big plus. So check that out if you're interested. But speaking on this tier list, man, I know it's going to be fun because it's not always easy to see eye to eye and actually place an album on the same level. So it'll be interesting to see if we could pull it off. So we have 25 albums. Some of them are our favorites, some of them not so much. And by the way, we've also heard a lot of other albums that just did not make this list. And there's also some albums that we're saving for other pieces of content, for example, like LP by JPEG Mafia. But without further ado, let's get into this. Let's start off the tier list ranking with Donda by Kanye West. Has the amazing rating changed for you?
No, it has not. I'm still going to keep it at amazing. It's still within my rotation. I think the only gripe, though, I think that it's a bit bloated overall. I think that that's my only gripe that's developed over time. But still, I'm keeping it at amazing. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, I would keep it as amazing. The way that he juggled the gospel with the hip-hop sounds was breathtaking, and the evolving track list was also cool to see. So I'm keeping that amazing rating. Not one of Kanye's best albums, but still a really unique project to come out in 2021 and probably my favorite album experience. But let's now go on to Punk by Young Thug. And we originally gave this a great rating, but it's kind of gotten a lot of hate, and I feel like it is overhated. I love how Young Thug showed us a new side of himself and got introspective and also brought in some nice acoustic guitar strings. So for me, it kind of dipped down from the great. I'm feeling more of a good just because it fell out of my rotation. But where are you at with it?
I'm on that exact same point. I'm going to keep it at a good. I had a great initially in the review, but I think that overall, I gravitate towards more projects when it comes to Young Thug, and this has dropped out of my rotation. But I'm still, you know, going back to a couple of songs. But yes, I'm going to have to put it at good. But let's go on to Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator. Still a lock for me. I'm putting it at amazing. Same thing as the review. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, I love Tyler's return to rapping, and I think that on the rapping level, it's his most technical album, and this kind of completes his amazing 3-album run from Flower Boy, Igor, and now Call Me If You Get Lost. I loved it. It was so immersive, and the way that he sets up atmosphere is better than any other album this year. So it does merit that amazing rating for me. Let's now go on, though, to a very, I would say, controversial album, and that is Certified Lover Boy by Drake. We originally gave it a good rating. I'm kind of going towards the mid now. So where are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm going to stick with good. And I think it's because I do take songs out of this album, and I have songs like, example, you know, Champagne Poetry or even Fair Trade. Love All's fantastic. Pipe Down's really good. You know, 7 a.m. on Bridal Path. But I mean, it's a generic Drizzy project. And, you know, some people say, you know, he sounds uninspired or there's certain gripes with the project. But yes, I'm going to stick with good on this one.
I would say that it's kind of Drake on cruise control, giving us a formula that he's given us before. And despite the moments of brilliance like Fair Trade or Champagne Poetry, it's not the greatest Drake project, but I'll agree with you. It is pretty good. So
it is a good album in my opinion. But let's move on to Culture 3 by Migos. I don't have much to say about this. I'm going to go with mid. I'm still going to go with mid. That's what I gave it on the review. Bloated track list, super long listen, and overall just didn't do much for me. But how about you? You still have it at mid there?
This is the perfect reason for why album sequels should not be a thing for the most part. So besides a couple of bangers, really gave us nothing new in terms of the Migos catalog. So yeah, man, I think that it stays at that mid rating.
I mean, there's nothing much else to say about it. Like we covered it in the review, and there's really nothing much
By the
going
way,
on
for
with
most
it.
of these albums, we actually did album reviews, so check out our playlist on album reviews to get our full thoughts on these. But let's now go on to Visonland by YBN Namir, one of the most memed out albums of the whole year, and all the way from the auto-tune disaster of Soul Train. It fell flat. Rapping is offbeat. Really bad project, and it's a bad rating.
No, it's definitely a bad rating, and I don't even have anything else to say about it. It's not enjoyable at all. But let's move on to The Off Season by J. Cole. This was an amazing listen for me off the bat, and it still is going to stick at that rotation. Like, I have nothing else to say. I'm still happy with it. It stuck through my rotation, and I mean, overall, I've gotten, some of J. Cole's best songs in years, like Applying Pressure or Let Go of My Hand. My Life is fantastic, so I'm really happy with the album. It's definitely going to crack my end of the year rankings, and I'll give it that amazing rating as I initially gave it.
Yeah.
How about you? Where are you at with it?
I'm on the same page. I think that this is the hungriest J. Cole has sounded in a while. I love the punchlines. I love how evolved the rapping has gotten. Him experimenting with the melodic flows was really awesome. And also, it felt like a mixtape. It brought back the features. Just a really great experience, and it really has been one of my most listened to albums for the whole year. So we'll keep that amazing rating, man.
We're going to keep that amazing rating, but let's go on to Roadrunner New Light, New Machine by Brockhampton. We initially gave this amazing. We said it was a great concept. We were super amazed by the production and by the vocal performances, so I'm going to stick with amazing. How about you? Where are you going with this?
Out of the few experimental rap albums that I've heard this year, I love the trippy production. I love how it feels like this intimate group therapy session for Joba. So for me, concept was well executed, no misses at all, and I loved it. So amazing rating.
Amazing it goes. So let's go on to the Melodic Blue by Baby Keem. Another album I was super hyped for this year. It definitely lived up to the expectations for me. I have a bunch of different songs off this album that are still in my rotation, like Trademark USA or Range Brothers or Family Ties. So where are you at with it? Are we still at that great rating? Because I know personally, I still am, and I do have this in my rotation.
For sure. I mean, I think this album is so thrilling and was one of my favorite first listens of the year because of the unpredictability from the beat switches to Baby Keem's, let's say, oddball cadences at times. Very creative album and really one of my favorite listens of the year. So I'll have to stick with that great rating.
Okay, let's move on to another project that we were big fans of, and it's King's Disease 2 by Nas. This released around the same time, as Donda was getting a lot of hype, so around that August 6th date where we initially thought we had a release date. But this was a big surprise because King's Disease 1 was good. It wasn't an amazing project.
Didn't deserve the Grammy, that's for sure.
But this, Alfredo should have gotten it. But this is definitely an amazing project, one of my favorite of the year. So I'm going to keep it at amazing. How about you? Where are you at with this album?
Yeah, I just love the way that Nas is just harnessing his skills year after year, and 30 years into the game is still doing it on this level.
Improving at this age.
Yeah, man. And to hear him and Hit Boy have so much chemistry, to hear him being able to navigate around this modern climate by rapping over trap instrumentals like 40 Side or YKTV, while also killing it on the old school beats. Loved it. Loved the collaborations with Eminem and Lauryn Hill as well. So easily one of the best albums of the year. We got to stick with that amazing rating. But let's now go on to one of those listens that just was a complete shit show. And that was KHALED by DJ Khaled. And this is an interesting one just because Khaled's kind of been known for being that hit maker who brings artists together and gets them to really connect and create these hits. But with this project, it was like he's like, all right, let me take Justin Bieber and 21 Savage, put them together in a song, stick it to the fucking wall and see if it sticks. Nothing hit for me.
No, it definitely didn't hit for me. And I mean, there was really nothing going on with this overall, and I'm going to stick to it. I think that it's definitely a bad project. I don't revisit it at all. But
is it your least favorite listen of the year?
No, definitely not. I definitely have something else over this. But let's move on to A Gangsta's Pain by Moneybagg Yo. Major surprise for us. I mean, we didn't review this at first, and we feel really bad about it. It's one that I know that I'm really fucking with at this point. I'm going to give it a great rating. I'll give you guys the rating before we actually put out a review or any other piece of content. I think it's a great album. How about you, Lou? Where are you standing with it right now?
Yeah, I love the rich production. I love also just the bluesy songwriting from him, and it ended up being one of, if not the best trap album of the year, so it really does deserve that great rating. But let's now go on to The Voice of the Heroes by Lil Baby and Lil Durk, and we were kind of skeptical going into this, man. I mean, a collaboration album between the two of these guys that never really showed too great of chemistry, and that's kind of what lowered this in my rating, is that lack of chemistry despite them getting personal on songs. So for me, I'm going to bring it down. We originally had it at good. I think it's now mid.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think it's mid. I mean, I'd rather get I'd rather get a Gun and Lil Baby project. If
Yeah,
I'm
give
gonna
me
be
Drip harder too.
that's more or less where I'm at with this. But yes, it did drop down, and I think it's just because of the replay value. Like, I really don't visit this project at all. After my first couple of listens, it started to get redundant for me. So yes, I'm gonna keep it at mid. But let's move on to Hall of Fame by Polo G. We had high expectations for this album. We made a good amount of content on it. We were hyped for it. We thought that it was gonna be a great listen, but again, I'm keeping it at mid. I have nothing else to say, and I still haven't even revisited it as much at this point. It's just not that entertaining as a listen as other albums of his have been.
Yeah,
for me.
and I love Polo G for blending conscious music with trap instrumentals like he's done on songs like Bloody Canvas, for example, which is the outro. But apart from that, a lot of misses and not cohesive at all, and I just feel like he didn't reach his full potential with this album, despite me enjoying the GOAT. So we're going to keep that mid rating, but let's now go on to the return of Isaiah Rashad. This was such a big moment. We expected this to be a top 5 rap album of the year when we were doing pre-anticipation content on this. But now that we've had time to age with it, I do want to say that The House is Burning has really grown on me. But I do think that his delivery is a bit too lazy at times and too passive, which made the pacing of the album kind of drag on at times. So for me, I'm keeping that good rating we originally had, but how do you feel?
I'm gonna have to give it a great rating, but listen, just for the tier list, I'll say okay, we'll keep it at good. But I'm an honest belief that this will crack my top 10 album of the year list.
Guaranteed?
I'm really considering it because it's had such a heavy place in my rotation over the year. I love songs like Rest in Peace, Young. I love songs like Headshots. I'm a big fan of Chad. There's a lot of songs on the album that I'm really gravitating towards.
I didn't like Chad. Also, don't shoot. I wasn't a big fan.
I'm a fan of that song too. Honestly, I'm a fan of the whole track. I just think it's one big vibe. I love the soundscape. So if it was up to me only, I'd give it great, but we'll keep it at good just for the sake of the actual tier list. Let's move on to another album that had a good amount of anticipation. It was Vince Staples by Vince Staples, and super short listen. There's nothing too complicated with the project itself, but still, I think it's an amazing listen overall. I'm not going to change on it. The replay value on it has been amazing for me, and it's still stuck through my rotation. So how about you? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, Vince is just the king of making these very short albums that are so memorable and have no skips at all, and that was the case with this one. Kind of felt like an autobiography, and it was just a breeze of a listen. Songs like Lil Faye, Taking Trips, Are You With That are some of my favorite of the entire year. So that amazing rating is really valid for us, but let's talk about Trip at Night by Trippie Redd. So to me, the issue was that every single beat on this album sounded like the same one. He brought in these rage beats that are very EDM inspired, and I really wasn't fucking with it, bro. And even that screamo delivery.
No, it wasn't really for me. No, definitely wasn't it for me. And I understand that, Trippie Redd doesn't necessarily, have that much, let's say lyricism with him. And even if he has, displayed it on other songs and other albums, but I just I think it was too much of a listen for me, and I'm still going to keep that at a mid rating. But let's move on to Pray for Haiti by Matt Comey. This was an album that we should have reviewed when it came out. We really feel bad that we didn't. But we're going to make content on this at one point. So listen, without saying too much, because we still have a lot to dive into with it, where are you at with it, and where are you trying to put your ranking with it?
I love it. I love the fact that he brought in his Haitian roots to dedicate an album to Haiti and the poor living conditions that people are going through who are there, mixed in with his amazing rapping, wordplay, poetic devices. To me, it's the best Griselda album of the year, and one of the best projects of the year, point blank. And I love the mysterious aura about it because you can't find the lyrics anywhere on Genius. So for me, it's an amazing listen.
It was an amazing listen, and I like what you said about it being the best Griselda album of the year. That's facts. I'd also put Bo Jackson in that conversation.
And La Machina.
I think Bo Jackson and Pray for Haiti are in their own league for me this year at least. So we reviewed Bo Jackson. If you want to go visit it on the channel, we didn't include it on this list. It won't be here, but we're big fans of that album. But let's keep moving on with All Brilliant Things by Sky Zoo.
All the Brilliant Things by Sky
Zoo. Excuse me. I'm a big fan of Jewelry. I'm a big fan of the jazzy atmosphere through the production throughout the album. Sky Zoo is such a great lyricist, still at the top of his game. Underground legend. So this is nothing short. I mean, great release for 2021 in my eyes. I'd probably even give it amazing. Where are you at with this?
Yeah, I just love how well composed these jazz boom bap beats were. Sounds like it was fucking put together by Miles Davis for how rich and polished it sounded. And like you said, SkyZoo keeps stacking up this amazing catalog that remains slept on. So check out all the brilliant things by SkyZoo if you haven't already. One of my favorite albums of the year, and I will be talking about it more on the channel. But let's now go on to Sincerely Kentrell by YoungBoy Never Broke Again, aka NBA YoungBoy. I don't have much to say here. Not a single song that I saved at the end of it, and you were mentioning this earlier when we did a review, saying how like you can barely hear what the fuck he's even saying. Like a lot of his vocal performances are inaudible.
No, that's very true, and he's a great rapper. I mean, NBA YoungBoy is a really good rapper, especially when it comes to his cadences and the quick flows. But still, you're not getting anything out of this, and throughout the whole album, it just feels like song after song is a skip for me. So really didn't enjoy it. Let's go on to another project that we did not.
Bad rating, by the way. I don't know if we said it.
My bad. Yeah. Bad rating for this tier list. Let's move on to Bobby Tarantino 3 from Logic. Again, another album that stays bad for me. I'm putting it in the bad category. Felt as if it was a troll more than anything, and a big fuck you towards Def Jam. So nothing much going on there. And I mean, when you take this and you compare it to the Incredible True Story or even the Young Sinatra series or even Under Pressure, like if No Pressure, if you want to go like even to his not his earlier, like his latest release before this.
Well, it's not even that, man. It's the fact
like it didn't live up to it for me, you know?
It's the fact that he retires and this is his comeback album, his fucking Bobby Tarantino 3. And this project is just a big slap to the face. But it was one of the most enjoyable experiences because it was so fun to laugh along at Stupid Skit, which was a big joke. And I felt like Logic was kind of parodying himself. And also some songs like My Way feel derivative of, let's say, Juice WRLD in terms of the vocal inflection. So overall, really weak listen, and I hope that Logic has more to offer in the future. So we're going to give this a bad rating, despite it having a beautiful cover. I love the
Sam
cover,
Spratt.
man.
It was Sam Spratt that took care of that, right? Yeah, he always does a great job on Logic's covers. But let's move on to a fantastic listen this year. Sometimes I Might Be Introvert by Little Sims. This is a very interesting album because it came out at the time of the Donda CLB feud, and this is actually the album that ended up being better than both of those albums in my eyes. I love Inflow's production throughout the whole project. I love the concept behind the album. I love how Sometimes I Might Be Introvert actually stands for SIMBI, her sort of nickname, and I also love how she's so deep with culture on this, and sort of shows her background throughout it. So stays the same for me. Amazing album. Where do you stand with it? Because I know you're a major fan of this.
Yeah, I think this album made a bigger statement than any other project did this whole year. I think it's the most versatile hip hop album of the year. I mean, take the way that she blends in neo soul with conscious hip hop mixed in with grime UK rap. It's just breathtaking. The production is grand. Loved all the orchestral arrangements. And like you were saying, the fact that this came out around the same time as Donda and Certified Lover Boy, and the narrative was that a female rapper from the UK ends up washing both of those albums, that's so awesome to see. I fucking loved it. One of my favorites of the whole year. So you better believe it gets that amazing rating, man. And it was... It did get perfect in a few of our categories in the review, man.
Maybe at one point we'll revisit this and maybe give it a different rating if we feel sort of different
we'll see,
about
guys.
anything.
We'll
but
one nitpick though is the skits. I think were a bit overbearing, but it's a little small nitpick. Doesn't hold the album back in any way. But let's now go on to Hitler Wears Hermes 8 by Westside Gunn. One of the most anticipated from the whole underground scene this year. So how did you feel about him doing a double disc album?
I liked it at first, but to be honest with you, it kind of had an issue with pacing. I just feel as if it got too long at a certain point. And yes, I get it. The whole album feels very grand. It feels very luxurious, especially with like the Richard Mille sort of skits.
Richard Mille.
I like that. I fuck with that. But to be honest with you, I believe we gave it a great rating at first. I'm gonna knock it down to a good. I just think that there's so many tracks that haven't made my rotation. It's like, what have I really grabbed out of the project? So, I mean, do you agree with me? Do you think we should put it at good for this tier list?
Yeah, let's keep it at good. I think that he still remains a great curator, but apart from that, the cinematic landscape that he sets up didn't have the effect he wanted it to, and too long, bro. Too many tracks and too little that I'm revisiting. So we'll keep the good rating. Now we go on to Expensive Pain by Meek Mill, and coming off of championships in 2018, I had very high hopes. But this one was disappointing. I felt like the flows and cadences at times were similar to Lil Durk, and it just felt like...
Too many romantic songs,
too many romance and love songs, and I felt like Meek Mill's identity was kind of lost in certain tracks throughout the album. So for me, really not an enjoyable listen, and not a Meek Mill album that I'm revisiting.
No, absolutely not. So I think we could both agree on this. This was a mid album. I mean, I'm gonna agree with you. Nothing I'm really revisiting throughout the whole track list, but overall, I mean, Meek Mill's a great rapper. You know, he has a great catalog, but just this didn't necessarily live up to the hype for me. But let's move on to our last album. And we did 25 in total, by the way, guys. And this is Life of a Don by Don Toliver. So, initially we gave this great, and it was because I was edging towards this, but I'm going good now. You know, I kind of see where the flaws are within the track list. I think the second half is definitely weaker than the first, but I'm still going on a bunch of different songs. I'm still liking, you know, songs like X Factor and stuff like that. So
Escape, you mean?
Escape, my bro. How did I fuck that
All
up?
good.
Anyways, my bad. Regardless, you know, I'm still on certain songs, and like, you know, how are you feeling about this, especially with Mike Dean's production and a bunch of different sort of, you know, components, let's say, going into this whole album?
Well, I think the production is clearly the biggest, you know, winning point of the album, just because it's very transcendent. It has the best psychedelic atmosphere of the whole year. But I would have to say that I'm not revisiting it all that much, and I do feel like it drags on in that second half. And yeah, I think I prefer Heaven and Hell as a project, surprisingly. So I think that we gave it originally a great rating. I think you were kind of gunning for that. I was kind of more on the good side. So I think we'll have to ultimately give it the good rating, to be honest.
Well, it's the test of time sort of speaks truth, you know? So we are going to give it a good rating. But overall, guys, throughout this whole sort of tier list, let us know how you feel about these rankings. And let us know maybe where we fucked up, where you guys would have switched certain picks, and a bunch of other, you know, different takes and comments in the comment section. We always love having conversation with you guys. Plus, guys, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, mark your calendars. December 29th, we're doing a major award show at NFR here. We're taking you guys through a bunch of different categories, and it will be all live streamed on that Wednesday night. So guys, mark it in your calendar, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and as I said at the beginning also, we're doing a bunch of different content like this on the weekly here at NFR. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for watching the full video, and if you're new to NFR, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as we'll be keeping you guys updated with the latest album releases in terms of update videos, album reviews, and our own original series on the weekly. And we also have our Patreon plan available in the description below, where you can access weekly bonus content and also access to our Discord. So be sure to check out all of that, and we'll catch you in the next one.